Captain Minho stood on the bridge of the UN's horizon and watched the alien ships appear. They came out of nowhere, massive and dark against the stars. 50 of them. Each one was 3 times the size of his ship. His hands gripped the armrest of his chair. "They're hailing us," said his communications officer. Minho nodded. "Put them through." The screen flickered. A face appeared. It was not human. The creature had 4 eyes arranged in a square pattern. Its skin was gray and covered in scales. When it spoke, the translator made its voice sound smooth and cold. "I am Commander Vex of the Valen Empire. You will surrender your world immediately." "This is Captain Minho of Earth. We come in peace. We want to talk." "There's nothing to discuss," Vex said. "The Valen Empire rules 847 star systems. You are System 848. Surrender now." Minho shook his head. "We cannot do that. Earth is an independent world. We wish to be friends with the Valen, but we will not be ruled by you." The alien's 4 eyes blinked slowly. "Then you have chosen death." The screen went black. Minho grabbed his radio. "All ships, battle stations, get me Earth Command now." But he knew it was already too late. The alien ships were moving. They were faster than anything Earth had ever built. Much faster. On Earth, Ambassador Sora sat in the Sol Command Center. She watched the reports coming in from space. Her face was pale. She had spent her whole life working for peace between nations. Now she faced something worse than war between humans. She faced war with aliens who had weapons Earth could not match. "How long do we have?" she asked the general beside her. "Maybe 3 days," he said. "Our satellites show more ships coming." "Hundreds of them." Sora closed her eyes. She thought about her daughter in Tokyo, her son in New York, her grandchildren in London. She thought about the 7 billion people on Earth who trusted their leaders to keep them safe. "Send a message to all human colonies," she said quietly. "Tell them what is happening. Tell them to prepare. Tell them to remember us." The general looked at her with sad eyes. "You think we're going to lose?" "I think we never had a chance," Sora said. "The Valen war fleet arrived 72 hours later. Minho and the UN's horizon tried to fight. They fired missiles and railguns. They used every weapon Earth had developed. The weapons bounced off the alien shields like raindrops on glass. By Minho. Watched as the alien ships moved into position around Earth. They formed a perfect sphere. Thousands of them. They began to glow with a purple light. "What are they doing?" asked his weapons officer. Minho knew. He had seen the records from the Valen database that his science team had stolen during first contact. The Valen did not take prisoners. The Valen did not accept surrender. When a world refused to join their empire, the Valen destroyed it completely. "They're preparing to fire," Minho said. His voice was flat, empty. "Get everyone to the escape pods." "Now, Captain, we can't just now," Minho shouted. "That's an order." The crew rushed to the escape pods. Minho stayed on the bridge. He wanted to watch. He needed to witness what was about to happen. Someone had to remember. The Valen ships fired together. Beams of purple energy struck Earth's surface. Where they hit, the ground exploded. Cities vanished in seconds. Tokyo became a crater of molten rock. New York disappeared in a flash of light. London burned. Paris melted. Beijing, Mumbai, Mexico City, Cairo, all gone in the first 30 seconds. Minho watched the oceans begin to boil. He watched the atmosphere catch fire. He watched as 7 billion human lives ended in less than an hour. In Seoul, Ambassador Sora felt the building shake. She knew what was coming. She grabbed her radio and began to speak. Her voice was calm, even though tears ran down her face. "This is Ambassador Sora to all human colonies. Earth is lost. 7 billion of our people are dying as I speak. The Valen Empire has destroyed our home. Remember us. Remember what they did. Make them pay for this. Make them." The ceiling collapsed. The transmission ended. In space, Minho watched until the end. He watched until Earth was nothing but a burning ball of broken rock. The atmosphere was gone. The oceans were steam. The continents were cracked and melting. Nothing could survive down there. Nothing. His ship shook as a Valen vessel fired on them. The horizon was already damaged. This shot finished it. Alarms screamed. Fire spread through the corridors. Minho grabbed the ship's black box. He recorded one final message. "This is Captain Minho, on's horizon. Earth has fallen. The Valen Empire killed everyone. 7 billion souls. They burned our world because we would not bow to them. To whoever finds this, remember what happened here. Remember that humanity did not surrender. We stood for our freedom, and they murdered us for it. Do not let our deaths mean nothing." He launched the black box in an escape capsule toward the edge of the solar system. Then he sat back in his chair and waited for death. But death did not come. A human colony ship called the New Hope appeared. They grabbed the Horizon's escape pods and Minho's capsule. They jumped to faster-than-light speed and ran. Minho woke up 3 days later in the medical bay of the New Hope. A doctor stood over him. She had tears in her eyes. "How many survived?" Minho asked. 340,000, she said. "Out of 7 billion, that's all that's left of humanity. Everyone who was off-world when it happened." Minho closed his eyes. 340,000. It was nothing. A rounding error. The Valen had killed humanity. But that night, in a meeting room on the New Hope, the survivors gathered. There were scientists and soldiers, civilians and children. Admiral Jiho, commander of the Titan shipyards near Saturn, stood before them. "The Valen think they have destroyed us," Jiho said. His voice was hard as steel. "They think we are broken. They think we will scatter and hide and eventually disappear. They are wrong. We will not forgive them. We will not forget what they did. We will rebuild. We will grow strong. And one day, we will end the Valen Empire forever. This I swear on the graves of 7 billion human souls." Everyone in the room stood. Everyone raised their right hand. Everyone swore the same oath. Humanity would have revenge. 20 years had passed since Earth burned. Commander Yuna walked through the corridors of the Remember Tokyo, one of humanity's new warships. The ship was completely silent. That was by design. Everything about this vessel was built to hide from Valen's sensors. She reached the bridge and looked at her crew. 38 people, young faces. None of them had ever seen Earth. They were born in the colonies or on ships between the stars. But every single one of them knew the story. Every one of them had lost family that day. "Status report," Yuna said. "All systems green," her pilot replied. "Ghost protocol is active. We're invisible to Valen's scanners." Guna nodded. The Ghost fleet was humanity's greatest achievement. 50 ships that could move through Valen space without being detected. Each one was named for a city that died. Remember Tokyo. Remember New York. Remember Seoul. Remember Mumbai. The names helped them remember why they fought. "Take us to the meeting point," Yuna ordered. The ship moved silently through space. Around them, the Valen Empire continued as if nothing had changed. The aliens still ruled their 847 worlds. They still enslaved entire species. They still believed they were the greatest power in the galaxy. They had no idea that humanity was preparing to destroy them, deep in an asteroid field far from Valen patrols. Dr. Taiho worked in his laboratory. He was old now, almost 60. He had been a young scientist when Earth died. Now he led humanity's weapons research program. "Show me the test results," he said to his assistant. The screen lit up with data. Taiho smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had just found a way to kill his enemies. "The kinetic impactor works," the assistant said. "We accelerated it to 99% of light speed. It hit the test target," and she paused. "Sir, it went straight through the Valen shield." "The shield didn't even slow it down," O nodded slowly. "The Valen trusted their energy shields. Those shields could stop any energy weapon. But they were designed to stop plasma and lasers, not solid objects moving at near light speed. Humanity had found the weakness. How many can we build? Taiho asked. With our current resources? Maybe 5,000. We'll need more, Taiho said. Much more. We're not fighting one battle. We're fighting a war across 800 worlds. While Yuna scouted and Taiho built weapons. Agent Hannah lived among the Valen. She had been deep undercover for 15 years. She looked human, but she had changed everything about herself. Her skin was dyed gray. Her eyes were modified to look like Valen eyes. She spoke their language perfectly. She even thought like them now. It was the loneliest mission anyone had ever taken. But it was also the most important. Hannah worked as a clerk in the Valen military headquarters on their capital world, Valen Prime. She processed reports and filed documents. No one paid attention to her. Clerks were invisible. That let her see everything. She learned about Valen fleet movements. She learned about their weapons technology. She learned which worlds had strong defenses and which were weak. Most importantly, she learned about the Empire's greatest secret. The Valen Empire was dying, not from outside enemies. From the inside, the Valen themselves numbered only about 5 billion people. But their empire controlled 847 worlds, with a total population of 1 trillion beings. 200 different species lived under Valen rule. Most of them were slaves. The empire stayed in power through fear. When a world rebelled, the Valen burned it from orbit. Just like they burned Earth, that fear kept the slaves in line. But Hannah saw the reports. Small rebellions happened every month. The Valen crushed them all, but it took more effort each time. The empire was a house built on sand. It just needed the right push to fall. Hannah sent her final message using a hidden transmitter. The message traveled through secret relay stations until it reached the Titan shipyards. There, Admiral Jiho read it with old, tired eyes. Jiho was 90 years old now. He should have been dead. But human medicine had advanced during the 20 years of preparation. They kept him alive because they needed him. He had become the heart of humanity's revenge. Assemble the council, Jiho said to his aide. 1 hour later, the leaders of humanity gathered in a secure room. Yuna was there, her ghost fleet ready. Taiho joined via video screen from his laboratory. Representatives from all the human colonies attended. 340,000 people had become 3 million. Humanity was growing again, slowly, hidden in the dark spaces between stars where the Valen never looked. Hannah has sent her final report, Jiho said. He projected the message on the wall. Everyone read it in silence. The Empire is weak, said one of the colony representatives, but they still have thousands of warships. We have less than 200 combat ships. How can we win? Jiho stood slowly. He walked to the window and looked out at the shipyard. Dozens of new vessels were under construction, all of them built for one purpose. Don't need to defeat their entire fleet, Jiho said. We need to break their grip on the enslaved worlds. Hannah's report shows us how. The Valen control, through fear. They rule by orbital bombardment. But what happens when the slaves fight back and we help them? Understanding spread across the faces in the room. We free one world, Yuna said slowly. Show the slaves that the Valen can be beaten. Then we arm them, train them, help them fight. Exactly, Jiho said. The Valen Empire has 847 worlds. We only need to light the spark. The fire will spread on its own. Taiho spoke from the screen. I have enough weapons for the first strike. After that, we'll need to capture Valen weapons and give them to the freed slaves. Which world do we hit first? Asked one of the military commanders. Jiho pulled up a star map. He pointed to a system on the outer edge of Valen space. Drexener. Population 2 million Valen, 400 million Krell slaves. The Krell were conquered 300 years ago. They remember freedom, and according to Hannah's intelligence, the Valen garrison there is small. When do we strike? Yuna asked. Jiho looked at the calendar on the wall. 20 years, 3 months, and 14 days since Earth died. In 1 month, we begin Operation Earthfall. We start taking back the galaxy. For the 7 billion who died. For every species the Valen enslaved. And for Earth. Everyone in the room stood. They raised their hands in salute. The time for hiding was over. The time for preparation was done. Humanity was ready to go to war. Not for conquest. Not for empire. But for justice and freedom. The Valen Empire had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They thought they would rule for thousands more. They had no idea that their time was ending. They had no idea that the species they thought they destroyed had spent 20 years becoming something new. Something dangerous. Humanity was coming. And the galaxy would never be the same. Captain Sijin checked his weapons one last time. The Remember Soul was ready. Around him in space, 9 other human warships waited in perfect silence. They floated in the darkness between stars, invisible to Valen's sensors. "All ships report ready," said his weapons officer. Sijin nodded. He thought about the city his ship was named for. Seoul, where Ambassador Sora died sending her final message. Where millions burned in purple fire. His grandmother had lived in Seoul. She died there 20 years ago. "Begin the jump," Sijin ordered. "Target, Drexener." The ships vanished from normal space. Faster than light engines pushed them through the fabric of reality. 30 seconds later, they appeared above Drexener. Alarms immediately sounded on the Valen defense platforms. The aliens scrambled to their battle stations. They had not expected an attack. The Valen Empire had not faced a real war in centuries. Small rebellions, yes, but never an organized military strike. "Valen cruisers moving to intercept," reported the tactical officer. 5 ships. They're launching fighters. Sijin watched the enemy ships approach. They were large and powerful. Each one carried enough firepower to destroy a city. 20 years ago, one of these cruisers could have defeated every ship in Earth's fleet. But that was 20 years ago. "Fire kinetic impactors," Sijin said calmly. The Remember Soul launched 6 projectiles. They were simple cylinders of dense metal. No explosives. No warheads. Just solid matter accelerated to 99% of light speed. The Valen cruiser's shields activated, purple energy barriers that could stop any energy weapon. The captain of that cruiser probably felt safe behind those shields. The kinetic impactors hit at near light speed. They passed through the shields like they were not there. The projectile struck the cruiser's hull at such incredible speed that the metal turned into plasma on impact. The cruiser exploded. Then the explosion exploded again as the antimatter reactor lost containment. 4 more Valen cruisers died in the next minute. The Valen fighters tried to attack, but human point defense systems shot them down. In 47 minutes, the entire Valen defense fleet was destroyed. Sijin sat back in his chair. "Open a channel to the planet. All frequencies." "Channel open, sir." Sijin took a deep breath. This was the important part. The part that would determine if Operation Earthfall succeeded or failed. "People of Drexener," he said. "My name is Captain Sijin. I am human. 20 years ago, the Valen Empire destroyed our world. They killed 7 billion of my people because we refused to be their slaves. Today we have returned. We are here to free you." On the planet below, 400 million Krell heard the message. The Krell were a strong species. They had blue skin and 4 arms. 300 years ago, they had been free. Then the Valen came. The Valen conquered their world and made them slaves. For 300 years, Krell had worked in Valen factories and mines. They had been beaten and killed for the smallest disobedience. They had watched their children taken away and trained to serve Valen masters. They had dreamed of freedom but never dared to fight. The cost was too high. But now, someone was offering them a chance. Sijin continued his broadcast. "We know you are afraid. The Valen have taught you that resistance means death. They have shown you what happens to worlds that rebel. But look at your sky. Look at the burning wreckage of their fleet. The Valen can be defeated. We are sending down weapons and supplies. We are sending military advisors. If you rise up, we will help you. Together, we can free Drexener." In the capital city, a Krell worker named Dax listened to the message. He was old for a Krell, almost 90 years. He had been born free. He remembered what it felt like to walk under the sky without fear. He remembered his father teaching him to hunt. He remembered his mother singing songs about Krell heroes. Then the Valens came and took it all away. Dax looked at the younger Krell around him. They had never known freedom. They did not even know what to fight for. But Dax remembered, and he was tired of being a slave. "We rise," Dax said quietly. Then louder, "We rise. The humans are giving us a chance. We take it now, or we die as slaves." The other Krell looked at each other, fear warred with hope in their eyes. Then, one by one, they stood up. They grabbed tools and rocks and anything that could be used as weapons. They walked toward the Valen administrative building all across Drexener. The same thing happened. 400 million slaves rose up at once. The 2 million Valen on the planet tried to fight back, but they were outnumbered 200 to 1. Human shuttles landed in the major cities. Soldiers rushed out carrying crates of weapons. Not advanced human weapons, those were too complicated. Simple guns, rifles, explosives, things the Krell could use immediately. "The Valen garrison is in the northern fortress," a human sergeant told Dax. "They have heavy weapons and shields." "You'll need to, we know how to fight," Dax said firmly. "We just needed someone to give us hope." The battle for Drexener lasted 3 days. The Valen fought hard. They had orbital bombardment platforms that could destroy cities. But Seogen's ships destroyed those platforms before they could fire. Without the threat of orbital fire, the Valen ground forces were just soldiers. Good soldiers, but outnumbered. The Krell paid a heavy price. 50,000 died in the fighting. But they won. On the third day, the last Valen stronghold fell. The surviving Valen soldiers were taken prisoner. Dax stood in the ruins of the administrative building where he had been enslaved for 70 years. A human soldier stood beside him. "What happens now?" Dax asked. "That's up to you," the soldier said. "This is your world. You decide how to run it. We just helped you get free. We're not here to rule you. What about the Valen prisoners? Also your choice. We recommend a trial. Justice, not revenge. But it's your decision." Dax nodded slowly. Freedom meant making hard choices. He was ready for that. SEO Jun sent a message back to Admiral Jiho at the Titan shipyards. "Drexener is free. The Krell are with us. Beginning next phase." The next phase was simple. Tell everyone what happened. Human agents across Valen space spread the news. The story of Drexener traveled from world to world. A human fleet had appeared. They defeated the Valen in battle. They freed the slaves. And most importantly, they did not become the new masters. On 846 Valen worlds, enslaved species heard the story and began to hope. If it happened on Drexener, maybe it could happen to them. The Valen Empire heard the news too. In the throne room of Valen Prime, Emperor Thalvin listened to his generals argue about what to do. "It's just one world," said one general. "We can send a fleet and reconquer it." "That's what they want," said another. "They want us to spread our forces thin." Thalvin was old. He had ruled for 300 years. He had seen rebellions before. They all failed in the end. But something about this felt different. The humans were the species that should have been extinct. Now they were freeing Valen slaves and winning battles. "Find out how many humans there are," Thalvin ordered. "Find their bases. Find their fleet, and destroy them completely this time. No survivors." But it was already too late for that. The spark had been lit. Drexener was free, and across the Empire, slaves were beginning to believe that freedom was possible. Humanity's war had begun. The war spread like fire across dry grass. 6 months after Drexener, 12 more worlds rose in rebellion. 1 year later, 43 worlds were free. 2 years later, the number reached 200. Colonel Nari commanded the Liberation Fleet for the Fontar system. The Fontar were a bird-like species with beautiful feathers and sharp minds. The Valen had enslaved them for 200 years, using them as scientists and engineers. 3 Valen battlecruisers in orbit, reported her tactical officer. They're positioning themselves above the capital city. Nari understood what that meant. If the Fonter rebelled, the Valen would burn the city. They had done it before, on other worlds. Kill millions to keep billions in line. All ships, attack formation, Nari ordered. We need to take out those battlecruisers before they fire on the city. Her fleet consisted of 5 human warships and 10 Krell vessels. The Krell had joined the fight eagerly after Drexner was freed. They built ships using captured Valen technology and human designs. The ships were not perfect, but they worked. The battle was brutal. Valen weapons tore through one of the Krell ships, killing everyone aboard. Human kinetic impactors destroyed 1 Valen battlecruiser. The second cruiser fired on Nari's flagship, and she felt the ship shake as explosions ripped through the hull. Hull breach on decks 5 and 6. Someone shouted. "Keep firing," Nari said calmly. "We're not done yet." The third Valen battlecruiser began to charge its planetary bombardment weapon. Nari saw the energy building. In 30 seconds, that weapon would fire. In 31 seconds, a Fonter capital would be ash. A Krell ship called Freedom's Price flew directly at the Valen battlecruiser. The Krell captain rammed his ship into the enemy vessel at full speed. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire. The sacrifice gave Neris' fleet time to destroy the remaining Valen ships. When the battle ended, the Fonter were free, but the cost was high. 2 human ships damaged. 3 Krell ships destroyed. Over 500 people dead. Nari walked through her damaged ship after the battle. She saw the bodies of her crew being carried to the medical bay. Young faces. People who would never go home, Colonel said, her communications officer. Message from the Fonter government. They want to join the fight. They're offering their shipyards and their engineers. Nari nodded. More allies. More ships. More people willing to die for freedom. The rebellion was growing faster than anyone had expected. Across the Empire, the same story played out again and again. Humans would arrive at a Valen-controlled world. They would destroy the orbital defenses. They would arm the slaves and help them fight. Then they would move on to the next world. Humanity never stayed to rule. They never demanded tribute or loyalty. They just freed the slaves and left. This confused many species at first. Why would anyone fight without wanting to gain something? But the humans had a simple answer. They fought because the Valen had killed 7 billion of their people. They fought because slavery was wrong. They fought because someone had to stand up to the Empire, and species after species joined them. The Krell brought their strength and their anger. The Fonter brought their intelligence and their ships. The Mvindi, a species of amphibious hunters, brought their special forces troops. The Torax, strong as rocks and just as stubborn, brought their ground armies. 73 different species joined the rebellion. Each one had suffered under Valen rule. Each one had lost people to Valen cruelty. Together they became an unstoppable force. On Valen Prime, Emperor Thulvin watched his empire crumble. Every day brought news of another world lost. Every week, another Valen fleet was destroyed. The empire that had ruled for thousands of years was dying in front of his eyes. "How many worlds have we lost?" he asked his military council. 217, my emperor, said the defense minister. And the rebellions are accelerating. We're losing 3 or 4 worlds every week now. Send more fleets, Thulvin ordered. Crush these rebellions. We don't have enough ships, the minister said quietly. Our forces are spread across 600 remaining worlds. If we pull ships from one sector to fight in another, that sector will rebel. Thulvin slammed his hand on the armrest of his throne. Then build more ships. The shipyards are gone, my emperor. The rebels destroyed most of them. The ones that remain can't build fast enough. For the first time in 300 years, Emperor Thulvin felt fear. Real fear. The kind that made his hearts beat faster. The Empire was losing. The humans and their allies were winning. Pull all forces back to the core worlds, Thulvin said finally. Abandon the outer territories. We will defend the heart of the Empire and rebuild from there. It was a desperate move. A move that admitted defeat. But it was the only option left. The Valen fleet began to withdraw. They abandoned hundreds of worlds, leaving the slaves to fend for themselves. Most of those worlds immediately joined the rebellion. Some tried to stay neutral. A few actually wanted the Valen to stay, afraid of what would come next. But the withdrawal gave the Valen something valuable. Time. Time to gather their remaining forces. Time to fortify their core worlds. Time to prepare for a final defense. At the Titan shipyards, Admiral Jiho reviewed the war reports. He was 95 years old now. His body was failing despite the best medical care. But his mind was still sharp. Commander Yujin, his chief strategist, stood beside him. The Valen have pulled back to their core systems. About 300 worlds. They're concentrating their entire fleet around Valen Prime. How many ships? Jiho asked. 4,000 warships. Maybe more. They're bringing in everything they have left. Jiho nodded slowly. And our forces? 800 human ships. 3,000 allied vessels from the freed worlds. It's the largest fleet ever assembled, but we're still outnumbered. Numbers don't tell the whole story, Jiho said. The Valen are fighting to preserve their empire. We're fighting to end it. That makes a difference. Yujin hesitated. Sir, there's something else. Intelligence reports that the Valen are preparing to defend Valen Prime with everything they have. If we attack, the casualties will be massive. We could lose half our fleet. Maybe more. I know, Jiho said quietly. Some of the allied leaders are asking if we should negotiate. Offer the Valen a peace treaty. Let them keep their core worlds in exchange for freeing the rest. Jiho turned to look at Yujin. His old eyes were hard. What do you think we should do? I think we should finish this, Yujin said. The Valen destroyed Earth. They killed billions. They enslaved hundreds of species. If we let them survive, they'll just rebuild and do it all again in 100 years. What about our casualties? Half our fleet means hundreds of thousands dead. Maybe millions. Those people volunteered to fight, Yujin said. They know the cost. And they're willing to pay it to end the Empire forever. Jiho walked to the window. Outside, he could see dozens of ships being prepared for battle. Each one carried hundreds of people, people who trusted him to lead them, people who might die in the coming fight. Send a message to all allied leaders, Jiho said. We're going to Valen Prime. We're going to end this war. Anyone who wants to join us is welcome. Anyone who wants to stay back, I understand. But humanity is going. We made a promise 20 years ago. We swore to end the Empire forever. It's time to keep that promise. The response was immediate. Every single allied species chose to join the attack. The Krell sent every ship they had. The Fonter committed their entire fleet. The Mavindi, the Torax, all 73 species, they all came. They came because humanity had freed them. They came because the Valen had to be stopped. They came because, for the first time in history, the galaxy had a chance to be truly free. The greatest fleet ever assembled prepared for the final battle. Destination: Valen Prime. Mission: end the Empire forever. The combined fleet emerged from faster-than-light space above Valen Prime. 3,800 ships. Humans, Krell, Fonter, Mavindi, Torox, and 70 other species. All of them had come to end the Empire. Waiting for them was the entire Valen military. 4,000 warships formed a defensive sphere around the planet. Thousands of defense platforms floated in orbit. Energy shields covered every city. The Valen had turned their home world into a fortress. Captain Seogen sat on the bridge of the Remember Soul around him. The crew prepared for battle. Nobody spoke. They all knew what was coming. Many of them would not survive the next few hours. All ships report ready, said the communications officer. Admiral Jiho's voice came over the fleet-wide channel. The old man was aboard the flagship, refusing to stay behind despite his failing health. Today we end this war, Jiho said. His voice was calm and strong. 20 years ago, the Valen burned Earth. They killed 7 billion humans because we would not bow to them. They thought they had destroyed us. They were wrong. We survived. We rebuilt. We grew stronger. And now we are here to fulfill the promise we made on that dark day. The Valen Empire ends today. For Earth, for every species they enslaved, for freedom, attack. The fleet surged forward. Valen and allied ships opened fire at the same time. Space lit up with weapons fire. Missiles and energy beams and kinetic impactors crossed the void at incredible speeds. The battle was chaos. Ships exploded on both sides. The Valen had better shields and more powerful energy weapons. But the Allied fleet had numbers and determination. And they had learned to fight over 2 years of war. Siajin guided the Remember Soul through the maelstrom. His ship fired kinetic impactors at a Valen battleship. The projectiles punched through the shields and tore the enemy ship apart. But return fire damaged his engines. "Hull breaches on multiple decks," shouted the damage control officer. "Keep fighting," Sajin ordered. "We're not done yet." A Krell cruiser exploded nearby, caught by a Valen energy blast. Siajin watched 300 Krell die in an instant. Then he watched as 2 more Krell ships flew into the gap their comrade had created, firing everything they had. The battle raged for 6 days. 6 days of continuous fighting. Ships fought until their ammunition was gone, then rammed into enemy vessels. Pilots flew damaged fighters on suicide runs. Ground troops landed on Valen defense platforms and captured them in brutal hand-to-hand combat. On the 4th day, Colonel Neri's ship was destroyed by a Valen missile. She survived in an escape pod, but 200 of her crew did not. She was picked up by a Mindy vessel and immediately asked to return to the fight by the 6th day. Both fleets were exhausted. The Allied fleet had lost 1,900 ships. Nearly half their forces. The Valen fleet was down to 1,500 ships, but they were still fighting, still defending their homeworld. That's when Captain Siajin made his move. The Remember Soul was barely functional. 1 engine was dead. Life support was failing. Half his crew was wounded or dead, but his weapons still worked. All remaining ships, Siajin broadcast on the command channel. "Follow me. We're breaking through." Siajin aimed his ship at the weakest point in the Valen defensive line. A dozen other ships joined him. Human, Krell, Fonter, all of them damaged, all of them still fighting. They flew straight at the Valen defenses. Enemy fire tore into them. Ships exploded left and right. But they kept going. Siajin felt his ship shake as another hit struck home. Alarms screamed. Fire spread through the corridors. Almost through. The pilot shouted. The Remember Soul broke through the defensive line. Behind them, the rest of the Allied fleet surged forward into the gap. The Valen line collapsed. "Prepare for atmospheric entry," Siajin ordered. "We're going down to the surface." "Sir, the ship can't handle atmospheric entry in this condition," the engineer protested. "It doesn't need to survive," Siajin said. "It just needs to get us to the planet." The Remember Soul fell toward Valen Prime, burning as it hit the atmosphere. Siajin guided it toward the capital city, toward the Imperial Palace where Emperor Thovin hid. At the last second, the crew evacuated in escape pods. The Remember Soul, the ship named for the city where Ambassador Sora died, crashed into the palace shields at full speed. The explosion was visible from orbit. The shields failed. The palace was open. Special Operations Commander Minjin led her team down from orbit. 50 soldiers in drop pods. They landed in the palace gardens and fought their way inside. Valen guards tried to stop them. They failed. Minjin and her team moved through the palace corridors. They had practiced this assault 100 times in simulations. They knew every room, every corridor. Agent Hannah had provided the maps years ago before her cover was blown and she escaped. The team reached the throne room. Valen elite guards waited inside, the Emperor's personal protectors. The fight was brutal. 10 of Minjin's soldiers died, but they won. The doors to the inner throne room opened. Emperor Thulvin sat on his throne. He was ancient, his gray skin wrinkled and spotted with age. His 4 eyes looked at Minjin with hatred. "Come to kill me, human?" He asked. "No," Minjin said. She lowered her weapon. "You're under arrest." You will stand trial for your crimes. Vaughn laughed. It was a harsh, bitter sound. Trial? For what? Ruling my empire? Maintaining order? For genocide, Minjin said quietly. For slavery? For the murder of billions? Every species you enslaved will have their say. Every world you burned will be remembered. You'll face justice. Justice from the species that should be extinct. Thulvin stood up slowly. I should have killed all of you. Should have hunted down every last human after burning your world. But you didn't, Minjin said. You thought we were broken. You thought we would just disappear. That was your mistake. Outside, the battle was ending. The Valen fleet was in ruins. Thousands of ships destroyed on both sides. But the Allied fleet had won. Valen Prime's defenses were broken. Admiral Jiho broadcast a message across all frequencies. His voice was weak now, his body finally failing. But his words were strong. People of the Valen Empire. This is Admiral Jiho of the Human Defense Fleet. The battle is over. Your military is defeated. Emperor Thulvan is in custody. The Valen Empire is finished. Your worlds are free. We came not to conquer you, but to liberate the species you enslaved. To the Valen people themselves, you are not our enemies. Your emperor and his government are... You will have the chance to build a new society. One based on freedom, not slavery. One based on cooperation, not conquest. In the throne room, Minjin placed restraints on Emperor Thulvan. The ancient ruler who had commanded 847 worlds was now a prisoner. What happens to me? Thulvan asked. Trawl, Minjin said, and whatever punishment the court decides. The same justice you denied to billions of others? 5 years later, the galaxy was transformed. The Valen Empire was gone. In its place, the Galactic Commonwealth brought together hundreds of species as equals. Every world had a voice. Every species had rights. No one ruled over anyone else. The trial of Emperor Thulvan lasted 2 years. Representatives from every enslaved species testified. The evidence was overwhelming. The court found him guilty of genocide, slavery, and crimes against sentient life. He was sentenced to life imprisonment. Humanity asked for only one thing in the new galaxy: a memorial station in Earth's orbit. The station was built around the ruins of the dead planet. 7 billion names were carved into walls that circled the scarred world. Commander Yuna, now retired, visited the memorial every year. She was old now, her hair gray, her body tired, but she always came. She walked through the halls reading names. Her parents, her brothers, her friends. 7 billion people who died so the Valen could prove their power, she found. Ambassador Sora's name carved in a wall of remembrance for those who died trying to prevent the war. Yuna placed her hand on the name. I kept the promise, she said quietly. The Empire is gone. The galaxy is free. You can rest now. Outside the memorial, Earth hung in space. The atmosphere was slowly healing. Oceans were forming again. Life was returning. In 1,000 years, people might live there again. It would never be the same. 7 billion ghosts would always haunt that world. Admiral Jiho had died 2 weeks after the Battle of Valen Prime. He had lived just long enough to see the Empire fall. His last words were simple. It's done. Captain Seogen survived the crash of the Remember Soul. He retired to a small colony world and spent his days teaching children about Earth, about the world their ancestors came from, about the price of freedom. The Krell, the Fonter, the Mvindi, and 70 other species rebuilt their worlds. Some became traders. Some became explorers. Some became scientists. All of them were free. Humanity, despite their powerful fleet, took no special position in the new Commonwealth. They had one vote, the same as every other species. They had proven they could destroy an empire. Now, they proved they could build peace. But the galaxy never forgot what humanity had done. When the Valen burned Earth, they thought they were destroying a weak species. Instead, they created their own doom. They turned humanity into something focused and determined. Something that would not stop until the Empire fell. 7 billion lives lost. It was a debt that could never be repaid. But humanity had tried. They had freed 800 worlds. They had ended tyranny. They had given the galaxy a chance for peace.